Hey guys, Moses with Negron Tech here. So for my next build, I wanted to challenge myself. I thought, how strong is not multiclassing? How strong is just going to pure class? First class we're going to tackle is going to be the Warlock. Now when you think about these lore builds, my lore appropriate builds, hey, what's more lore appropriate than the class like Will? He's a Warlock, just making him a Warlock, right? Like, it doesn't get more lore appropriate than that, right? It's not that simple, but you get what I'm saying. I really wanted to see, hey, is there any way that we can go pure Warlock, not be an Eldritch Blaster, and make the build work? Like, is it even possible? So talking about full Warlock, what does it really bring us unique? Well, nothing really. All the great things that you get by going Warlock, you get pretty early on. You get the extra attack at 5, you get Hex early, you get Pact of the Blade and the Charisma scaling early. Like, it's just so, there's really not much of a reason to go deep, right? You can just go 2 levels Warlock and then go rest Sork and be the ultimate Eldritch Blaster, right? What's the point of just going pure Warlock? But let's dig a little deeper, right? As you can see, you get one really unique, cool, thematic Eldritch Invocation at level 12, right? And that's Lifedrinker, a melee modifier that adds your charisma to attacks with necrotic damage. You know me, I love my Death Knight, I love my necrotic, my liches, my circle of sprues. I love it, man. It doesn't get more thematic than that, right? So that sounds pretty damn cool. Imagine a pure Warlock that's not an Eldritch Blaster. We're able to go into melee, do massive damage in melee while still casting, you know, deadly necrotic spells, because we get Circle of Death, we get good high-level Warlock dark spells, right? But this ain't gonna be easy to accomplish. When you think about going pure lock, we lack a lot. We can't use any cool weapons. We can only use simple weapons. We can only use light armor. We can't even use shield, guys. Like, this is crazy, right? Like, what, we get nothing. This is terrible. Clearly, it's not the best way to optimize your character. But let's see what we could do. Let's see what we can sprinkle and utilize gear and stuff to make this build work. Alright guys, so we're going to be a pure Warlock. The way I want to build it is going to be the Spellblade, right? But this is not the traditional Mage Knight, because we're not going to be like in heavy armor. We're not going to really be focusing on elements. We're going to be focusing on darkness, necrotic damage, and other Warlock specific spells, because we don't have access to those Sorcerer, Wizard, Elemental Cantrips, right? We're not that traditional like Mage. We're like, the way I look at it, it's more of a Spellblade Gish. So unlike my other builds, a big thing about this is that race selection actually becomes much more important. You see our base, let's see, go to half arc, I think it is. This is all we get, just simple weapons and light armor that really constricts the way we build the character as a Spellblade. One of the most interesting ways to build it is to go Githyanki, and all of a sudden we get medium armor and great swords. This is absolutely huge. Not only is it super lore appropriate to make Githyanki these Gish, these Spellblades, but they also get such great options with this. Another big one is going to be Dwarf and Shield Dwarf. You still get medium armor that way. The way we're going to build it is going to be focused on medium armor. It still works with light armor if you want to do it that way. You'll just be a little bit less tanky. Again, I always say go with the Royal Cool, but some of the best races are going to be Shield Dwarf, Githyanki. If you don't want to focus on using your great sword, same thing with Dwarf too, because you get access to two-handers all of a sudden with Warhammer's battle axes, stuff like that. But Drow, I believe it is, not Drow, but I think it's half elf and elf. You'll get two-handers. You can get the versatile two-handers, spears, glaives, halberds, stuff like that. Okay, it's just half elf, my bad. But it's just an option, right? So if you want to go sword and board, half elf or human is probably a good idea, right? If you want to be a two-hander, the way I'm going to build is going to be Githyanki. I'm going to use the Githyanki Hireling, and I think it just really fits. I think it's an awesome way to build it. So let's get into the build, right? Cantrips. This is not an Eldritch Blaster. It's a little bit different. We're going to be focusing on being able to do damage in melee and really do huge caster damage. And the big thing about this is that we're going to try to... The one thing about this is that my other Mage Knight build was actually singular focused. This build is going to have tremendous AoE options with Arms of Adar and Circle of Death when we end up maxing out Warlock. Now, spoiler, one of the weapons that I'm going to talk about is going to be the Staff of Chaos Necromancy. I found that in my last build that pretty much you could just upcast and you get pretty much infinite use of these necrotic spells. So just like if you get certain situations where you're able to do upcast Arms of Hadar as a level 5, and I'll show you later on the actual damage numbers, and you're hitting 3 to 4 targets, now your damage is unmatched while still being versatile in melee, right? So I think it's very cool. We go the Fiend because Armor of Agath is going to be our primary tank mechanism. It's only going to be 25 temporary hit points, but it's going to be a lot of damage that we're going to be able to do and increase that DPR and make us more versatile, make us a more complementary part Spellblade to the party. Remember, like, we're doing good melee damage, caster damage, We're doing damage when people are trying to hit us. When we do get hit, we're going to round out, I think, 1920 AC. But, you know, it does help. So I really do like keeping it this way because Arms of Dar, again, we're the Spellblade. This one's a little bit more necrotic focus. Arms of Dar is a very, very underrated spell. The range is short. But again, we're going to be in melee anyway. So the short range, at least it's the AoE, it's going to really complement our playstyle. So for ability points, one thing to note here is that end game with Githyanki or Sheradorf, you'll get medium armor. If not, you'll get the +3 anyway from the dexterity bonus, which is going to really help us and get just some free AC. Every AC matters in this build as we're not going to be wearing heavy armor. We're not a dex-based build, so we're not getting 20 dex. We're not getting 5 AC from dex. Now, in the end game, you get exotic material, medium armor. It maximizes this, or the medium armor feat does that too, because we are going to get 3 feats, and really only 1 feat. Well, 2 feats are mandatory. The third one you can really flex. Obviously, Charisma is going to be at 17. The most ideal scenario is to get Hacks here to 18, and then from there you go ASI to 20, and you round it out that way. Now, I like my builds to not really be focused around Hacks here and stuff like that, because I don't think it's completely necessary. Like, you can't just do that for every single character, you know? It's just not realistic, right? Like, you're going to have characters that are not going to be able to use legendaries. You're going to have characters that are not going to be able to use this or that, you know? It's just the way it is, right? Like, your MC is probably going to get all that. If this is going to be your MC build, by all means, do that. The helmet that I'm going to use for the build is going to be Helm of Arcane Diadem. We get the Arcane Synergy condition, and now we're going to double dip from our Charisma once we get to level 3 and Pact of the Blade. 14 Constitution, that's plenty fine. I normally like 16, but the AC is more important, I feel like, in this type of build, because we don't really have other 2 great tank mechanisms. And, you know, it's just good enough, right? We'll have the temporary hit points. We recharge our spells on short rest. We'll be fine when it comes to actually being in melee and stuff like that. So no spreadsheet this time. There's really no need. We're just going 12 levels in Warlock, right? There's no need to spreadsheet and get an idea of multi-classing options because it's going to be a pure mono lock. For level 1 spells, I'm going to get in-depth at the end. I'm not going to go through every level. I'll put some things out there that I think are appropriate. Now, for here, level 2, I think Hex is very good. You're probably not going to really be in melee too much. Early on in the game, you'll probably just Eldritch Blast. This is not an Eldritch Blasting build, but, you know, until you get level 5 and extra attack, or at least even level 3 Pact of the Blade, you'll probably just want to Eldritch Blast for those levels 1 to 3 in the very early in the game. And when it comes to Eldritch Invocations, it's not super mandatory to take whatever, because we're not really Eldritch Blasting. That's not the primary aspect of the build. The only real one that's absolutely mandatory is going to be Devil's Sight, because this gives us another huge defensive option. The AI has been patched to where it's not so derpy with Devil's Sight and Darkness. Again, this gives you the blind immunity. It's a huge buff. It's very good. It really fits in with the theme of us going in there, being able to cast spells, you know, finding other ways to be tanky in melee. You know, the one big thing about this is that we don't have a lot of spells that are going to take concentration, so we can actually use our concentration for more necrotic damage if you want. So Hex is very good. You just cast it 1 time. The only thing that is pretty bad about this is that it does use a spell slot. It only uses once, and if you do break concentration, you got to recast it. But you only cast it 1 time. As long as you don't lose it, you can just keep on recasting it, you know, throughout combat and throughout the short rest. Later on in the game, I don't really use this because the spell shots are pretty valuable. You do get it on short rest. Warlock, everybody knows Warlock is very good when it comes to having a bard in the party and getting that extra short rest. But again, back to the Eldritchification, definitely Devil's Sight. Early in the game, Agonizing Blast, you could probably respec out of it if you want to. And then whatever else you want. If you want more proficiencies, you know, skill monkey stuff, you can go with that. Level 3, probably go with Darkness. Hold is very good too, but I just like Darkness because it gives you really good early access. And, you know, you can really work a team to be able to see through the dark and stuff like that. You know, at level 3, you have the Darkness Devil Sight combo, and it really helps in certain situations like, you know, once you get to the Gish encounter in Act 1, right before the mountain pass, you know, this could really help that encounter when they have, you know, extra attack and they're very dangerous in melee. Now, we're going to go Pact of the Blade. We are still primarily, I don't want to say primarily melee focused, but we're going to get 2 attacks a turn. We're going to maximize our attack damage with Lifedrinker. We're going to scale our Charisma modifier. Just remember that do not summon a Pact of the Blade. Bind your current Pact weapon, right? If you're not using Githyanki or Shield Dwarf, or you're not using Half Elf or another race that gives you pretty good access to whatever, like a good advanced weapons, and you're just restricted to simple weapons, maybe early in the game Pact of the Blade might be better when you don't have good rares or you don't have the good you know, blues or greens early in the game. But just, you know, just remember later in the game, once you get good items, always buy Pact weapon. It's much better. So level 4, we get our first feat 100% just go with ASI. You really want to round it out. Again, in an ideal scenario, get the hags here for the +1. But again, you only get the hags here, so it's like if you use it for another character, you can't use it here, which is fine. You can just get ASI. You can go actor as the 3rd feat if you want. That is an option, but definitely ASI, getting our charisma, because you got to remember we're actually going to be triple dipping from charisma. We're gonna scale charisma on our regular attack. We're gonna use the Helm, you know, right before the end of Act 1, and then once you get to level 12, you're gonna get Lifedrinker and scale it again. So it's very good. It just increases your chance to hit, increases your damage. It's just a great option. At level 5, the big highlighted spell here is going to be Hunger of Dar. It's an incredible, it's super visually satisfying, great damage, great control. Just note that Devil's Slate does not give you immunity to this, and you don't want to be in your own Hunger of Dar and damage yourself. So once you get to level 8, you have a couple options here. So Great Weapon Master, I feel like using a two-hander really fits. You don't have to go this route, but I just like this because it's very versatile when I use either a Great Sword or the Quarterstaff, the Staff of Cherished Necromancy, because now I have the option to cast the free Necrotics at level 5. Especially, it's very good. Just recasting them for free. It's a great option. So the theory is that we're going to scale a lot of flat modifiers, right? Of course, you can get 3 attacks a turn with this when you get executes and kills with a two-hander, but getting 10 flat is huge. We're going to have another +5 flat damage just from Bind Pack Weapon, +5 from Lifedrinker, and another +5 from the helmet, right? So now we're getting 25 flat damage without any other conditional damage. Now, to me, it's not game breaking, right? But when you get 3 attacks, now you're looking at 75 flat damage, plus, let's say, the 2d6 from the Greatsword, plus the 2 enchantment, plus other gear like army, +2. So, like, you see where it really escalates, and now you're doing very reliable damage. But you're not just doing this reliable damage, because now you have the option to cast these very good AoE necrotic spells. Blight, Circle of Death, well, not Blight, but Circle of Death and Arms of Dar at level 5, and you can cast them for free if you go the Staff variant. You can't really cast them for free with the Greatsword variant, but still, you can just switch them out back and forth. Great Weapon Master is going to work with the Staff and the Greatsword, so it just fits very well. When you get level 10, you get Fiendish Resilience, which is very good. You can choose to be resistant to any damage type. You can choose to be resistant to bludgeoning, slashing, elemental, pretty much every damage type you could be resistant to, taking half damage, and it's huge because this does not take a concentration. So you cast it one time, you have the entirety of the short rest that it stays on you. This works incredibly well with Blade Ward. Blade Ward only lasts for 2 turns, but it's just very nice. Additionally, I'll talk about it once we get to level 12, but another spell that we're going to have is going to be Fire Shield. So we can be resistant to fire or cold damage for 10 turns. So you see it has, with the temporary hit points from Armor of Agathis, you know, medium armor with 20 AC. We're going to have Darkness Devil type combo. We're going to have, you know, Hunger of Dar for area of control. We're going to be able to have Fiendish Resilience. We're going to have a lot of mechanisms to increase our tankiness and really go into the whole loreful aspect of a Spellblade, where we're not just walking up like a Mage Knight in heavy armor while casting elemental stuff. We're still able to find ways to be tanky in other ways. At level 11, you get 1 level 6 spell. You can only cast it once per long rest, which isn't the best thing in the world, but for here, I think the most appropriate ones are really either Create Undead. We're not a Necromancer, really, but I think Circle of Death is much better. It just goes much more in line with what we're trying to accomplish. It's now a range, huge AoE necrotic spell compared to Arms of Dar, and even if they do hit the save, then we still have the ability to actually do damage, which is very good, right? And I just think it's an incredible, awesome spell, right? It's good. It's so good, guys. And once you get to level 12, you get that really awesome class feature, Lifedrinker. It is an incredible thing. I really wish, you know, I understand why they put this at level 12, because they got to give you a reason to really like monoclass, but I think it's so awesome, right? Like, being the Spellblade, we're going to scale the charisma. Now we're going to do necrotic charisma damage on melee attacks. It's just so cool. We're going to use Sword of Chaos here. It just makes a lot of sense, right? It's very cool, thematic, super lore appropriate. Just make sure you actually get it at level 12. It's a passive feature. You don't have to cast it like an aura or stuff like that. And then, of course, for the last feat, really go whatever you want. If you're, again, I like to do my builds to where you're not just relying on certain game aspects like Shard's Mirror and stuff like that. So you can just round out the 200 charisma. You can go actor if you want. You know, there's other ways. You can get charisma, stuff like that. But, you know, just whatever you guys actually want to do. Now, I will talk about it since we are at level 12. I'll talk about the spells in a second. But real quick, you don't have to, again, you don't have to go Great Weapon Master. If you want to use the half-elf or human variant of a Warlock, then you can use Polearm Master. Just know that I do believe that the bonus action attack with Polearm Master does not proc the damage riders like Lifedrinker. I hope it does, but I feel like every patch they kind of like change it where it does or doesn't work. I'm not really sure. I know when the game first released, when I first had my hybrid builds with halberds and quarterstaffs and glaives, it was not triggering damage riders, the bonus action, but might get fixed in the future. Another option is that you can go medium armor master. Again, later in the game, you get really good medium armor with exotic materials. That's going to round out and maximize the +3 that you get from the decks. And there's other things that you can do here. If you want to just more AC, you know, there's a lot of things that you can do here, guys. I mean, you can even go heavy armor if you want. If there's a specific weapon that you want proficiency in, you can go that way. If you want to go warcast. But yeah, the third feat, if you have other ways to get to 20 charisma, go for it. If not, just round that out here, no big deal. So here's my personal spell list. You can really go any spells that you really want to. But again, this is going to be the more Gish, Necrotic. I think going Lifedrinker, that's the whole point of going 12 levels. Be able to do melee damage while scaling our charisma, getting really good AoE necrotic spells. Again, some core things going to be the Armor of Agathis, Darkness Devil Sight, Vampiric Touch is a pretty nice spell to recover life if you do get in those sticky situations. Arms of Dar is incredible. Remember that Grand Flight is actually very good too, because as a Githyanki, when you get the boots of Psychonic Movement, right here you actually get another 1d4 die. Not anything huge, but just something to think about. You know, there's other ways to really, you know, now I can fly. You can be a flying Gish. I know a lot of people talk, oh, I want to be like a magical infused melee guy that can fly around the battlefield. This is it. You can actually do it in this build consistently and reliably, right? Another big one's going to be Fire Shield. I talked about this being resistant to cold or fire. This does last 10 turns, so use this, you know, sparingly because you really only get 3 spell slots on the short rest. Hold Monster is incredible. Blight's very good too. I mean, 98, that's kind of crazy, right? Very good. Huge damage. Circle, Death, and Arms of the Dawn really shine in the AoE scenarios. And, you know, Conjure Elementals from an Eldritch Vindication. And, you know, you just got other stuff here. But pretty much go whatever you want. Just here's my personal options. Now, talking about gear. We're only able to use Great Swords, again, because we're Githyanki. I like my gear not to revolve around legendaries, because I feel like, again, my MCs right here, Shadowheart, my primary characters, I want them to use the legendaries, stuff like that. If you want to do different things, you know, you want a hireling to be this build, or you want to make Will this, and you don't have really the appropriate legendaries, then it's like, I don't want to give you guys a legendary focused build, and then you're not able to do it with other races, right? Or other classes, or other hirelings, or party members. So for this Sword of Chaos, very appropriate. Obviously, Silver Sword of the Astral Plane will be incredible here. It's much better, but again, we're not really like the legendary focused build. For the other third weapon, or second weapon, if you want to look at that, is the Staff of Cherished Necromancy. This is absolutely incredible. You get a lot of life essence, and pretty much you get a kill. Pretty much you just cast this for free. You cast your huge necrotic spells for free. So you have like the option. I mean, you're still a Gish Spellblade. You're still casting a lot of spells, doing a lot of things that are super appropriate as that melee caster hybrid. But this really enables you to lean much more caster oriented. Let's say you want to be the more caster lich oriented, that you can go this route, right? Now, we do use medium armor, armor of agility. Any type of medium armor with exotic material is huge. Getting a 20 AC when we're really only supposed to be using light armor, and we have all these awesome caster options: Blade Ward, Fiendish Resilience, Fire Shield, Armor of Agathis. Like, you're going to be incredibly tanky in melee. Very good. Spell Crux is very nice for Warlock. I just like getting spell slot restoration. Now, other things like this, like the cape, you still want to try to get some gear that's going to increase your spell slave DC and attack rolls, because you are going to be casting spells here and there. And finally, for the gloves, talk about the helmet in a second, but for the gloves, I just like flat modifiers better. Hell Dust is good too, because you do get a hybrid of a 1d6 damage from fire, and you also get spell attack and spell save DC, which helps land your spells too. Now, finally, the highlight of the show is going to be the helmet. I like doing my builds with the Diadem Arcane Synergy over Birthright. Again, if you have 2 Charisma hybrid characters, you have my Death Knight build in there, then, you know, one can use this and the other one can use Birthright, right? So it's just something to think about. But again, you get this early in the game, and it's like your core Charisma you know, it just scales your charisma modifier again, and now you're adding those flat modifiers with the Great Weapon Master. Lifedrinker at 12. You know, technically you're triple dipping from this, right? So, or double dipping, depending on how you want to look at it. But just something to think about. I think it's very, very good, and that's pretty much the gear overview. So this is not a hard build to play. You know, the game's not really hard at all, right? But again, what's going to happen here, there's going to be a couple things that you want to do, right? Cash Fiendish Resilience. Pick whatever you think is more appropriate. Like in this like upcoming fight, they have like a hammer, there's a bow, there's slashing damage there, there's a mage over there. So, you know, cast some stuff that you think is going to be more appropriate here. I like to lean more to the elemental stuff because stuff like lightning is super, super dangerous. And besides that, you're going to bind pack weapon. And again, that doesn't use a spell slot. That's just like your Fiendish Resilience. You see that it does apply a condition too. So very, very good. Just know that this does recharge on short rest. So once you pick it, that's pretty much it for the short rest, right? You do get Create Undead. I think that's from my Crypt Ring. Yeah, so you can ignore that. Armor of Agathis, it just lasts pretty much forever. Always cast it. You want the on-hit cold damage when they hit you, and then you can just get more, you know, temporary health. You know, now going from 87 to 20, you know, plus 25. Get 113 effective health. Pretty good, right? And of course, the highlight is going to be Bind Pack Weapon. Just note that you can spam this all you want. So I like right before my fight, I'll Bind Pack Weapon, and then I'll go into the fight. So I get my Arcane Synergy, and now I just reliably, you'll have it throughout the fight because you'll just inflict conditions on hits, stuff like that, casting spells. Very, very cool. Grand Flight is another really good one because this is just a concentration, right? You just cast it pretty much forever. Now, the only negative is that I kind of messed around and I wasted one spell slot, but pretty much you're always going to, every short rest with Armor of Agathis, you're going to have 2 spells to really cast. That's really where the Staff of Cherished Necromancy highlights in this build. If you want to go that route, just make sure you buy and pack weapon it because you're doing a little bit less melee damage, but you're still getting the plus 10 flat from Great Weapon Master, right? And this also allows you, if you're not Githyanki per se, let's say you're human or half health, you can now go sword and board, right? You want to go Great Weapon Master, but you'd be a little bit more tanky, 22, 23 AC, and then you'd be more caster oriented there, but still having 2 attacks and being an incredible threat in melee too, right? So something I didn't get well. But that's pretty much it, guys. That's like the build. So one thing to note is that Lifedrinker is its own damage source. The wiki treats it as damage rider, shooter as damage sources, DRS, whatever. All you really need to know is that Lifedrinker, think of it as its own separate attack, right? So pretty much when you have additional die rolls, other things that are damage riders, like in the here I use lightning charging, for example. In my clips, you can see that my boots that get the psychic 1d4, 1d6 die after casting fly, that rides on Lifedrinker. So now it's triggering twice, right? Just want to add this quick note because this can be exploited to incredible effects. If you use a lot of damage riders on conditional gear, think about it that way, that if you want to be purely melee focused, you might want to incorporate some other gear that's going to give you more damage die and other buffs and like that are going to ride on that Lifedrinker proc, if that makes sense. Mozu with Negron Tech here, guys. You know, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good one.